Greetings to everybody. So this session, I would like to share with you all how I used to fill my PIQ form. So it is suggested that before watching this video further, it is suggested you have a PIQ form either in your phone, in your hand, if you're using other device to watch this video, or just have a printout of the PIQ form, right? So PIQ form, it is basically a personal interviewing questionnaire. So it is used by the interviewing officer, by the psychologist, and I think at times by the GTO as well. So this form is basically filled after the day one. I mean, at the end of the day one, after the stage one testing is over. So whoever candidates get screened in, uh, along with other documentation, there's also this form which you need to fill. It's called the PIQ form. So there, the assessor, whoever is present, assessor or any instructor or anybody who's present there, will in detail explain you all how to fill the entire PIQ form. Right? They in AFSBs usually they display it on the screen through a projector, and then they explain you line by line of what is to be done. Other boards, not necessarily even in army boards, that usually happens. If not, they'll just take a PIQ form. If there are very few candidates, they'll just take a PIQ form and stand in front of you all and explain you all these things. So assuming you all have the PIQ in front of you, I'll just begin with whatever is required. Right on the top right corner, there is something written as OIR. That is not our responsibility or something which we should worry about. It is to be filled by the assessors. So while filling the PIQ form, it is very important again to listen to the instructions given very carefully. Most probably they're the same instructions, but at times they tell you ki bottom right corner mein signature karo, top right corner mein write your present chest number, left side mein old chest number. Old as in during the screening test, and present as in after getting screened in. So the chest number for the further testing. Mostly it is different for everybody. So hence it is very important that we listen to the instructions very carefully. Now, in the first row, selection board number and place. So whatever board and its number, say 11 SSB Allahabad or 3 FSB Gandhinagar or whatever. Batch number, respective batch number, chest number. Most probably it is the present chest number. So listen to the instructions. UPSC other roll number, depending if it's NCC entry or CDS entry, FCAT entry, whatever it is. Name in capitals. So your name should be in capitals, and it should be according to your 10th mark sheet. So whatever the way your name is written in the 10th mark sheet, I'm specifying this because usually in Maharashtra, we tend to write our father's name in between our first name and the last name. At times it is different, it is jumbled at times. So it's a different thing. So basically keep it similar to what it is in your 10th mark sheet. Father's name according to 10th mark sheet. Okay. So this is the only place where it is written that write in capitals. Elsewhere, you write in capitals, you do not write in capitals. I used to not write in capitals the other portion to save time because I always had a lot to write. So I do not invest a lot of time writing in capitals. So place of maximum residence, whatever it is, maximum residence. They'll explain you all these things. I'll just cover a few important things. So place, comma, district, comma, state, right? So write the name of the place, the locality which you stay in, comma, the district, comma, the state. Below that, with approximate population of the place. So in bracket, you can write the approximate population of the place, of the locality which you've mentioned, not of the district, not of the state, right? They've asked of the place. So if your maximum present and permanent residence, all three are the same, then you can just write for the below two, you can just write same as above. So it also depends on the assessor. This factor you can clear with whoever is guiding you with filling the PIQ form. So they'll tell you what to do. So basically, I used to write the same as above. Below the permanent address, they've asked whether district headquarters or not. So yes or no, simple thing. Again, now below that is state and district. So state first, then district. Religion, whatever it is, whether SC, ST, OBC, write it. If not, just put a dash. Mother tongue, whatever language you all speak at home. Date of birth, married, single, widow, single. It's single for everybody who is trying for the armed forces. Uh, Parents. Oh, I mean for the graduation entry one. Parents, whatever it is, yes or no, and if not alive, then the age. Below that, now here it is important of parents and so basically a family's education background and income. So mostly everybody should is aware, but everybody should be aware of these things, right? So fill your father's, mother's details, like say whatever their education is, say MP Ed or MA in English literature or BTech or whatever the highest form of education which they've attained. So or PhD in so and so, something like that. Occupation, they'll explain you how to go about the occupation and all. So if serving, then government officer, government servant. If in the defense forces, they tell you to write the rank and all in respective forces. They'll explain you all these things. Income per month, so in INR. Same for brother, sister, same thing. So if none of that applies, if your brother, sister is a student, so write student and income may just put a dash. So where whichever space is going blank, I used to put a dash. So you all can do that as well. You can use that approach. Now your metric higher secondary is basically 10th grade. 10 plus 2 is 12th grade, then graduation and post graduation, right? So metric, so that full name of the institution, board, university, whatever, ICSC, CBSE or state board, say Madhya Pradesh or MP board. So in which year? So it is the year in which you passed 10th grade. Like my 10th standard was from 2013 to 14. So I just wrote 2014 because that's the year I passed out. So 2014. After that is division and marks. So I scored 89%. So that is distinction. So I used to write distinction, and below that I used to write the percentage, medium of English, instruction English or whichever language. Boarder and day scholar. So day scholar is basically who stay at home and then attend school or college. Boarder is somebody who is living in the academies or the institutions hostel facilities. So these things will be cleared. Then you all can clear these with the assessors who's explaining how to fill the PIQ form. Outstanding achievement in, if any. So in this case, in this table especially, outstanding achievement is regarding your academics. Say topper of mathematics or 98 percentage in physics or something like that. Quiz topper or debate topper in school or college or anything like that. So similar for 12th and graduation. So below graduation, there's an empty space. So there, usually they ask you to write what graduation you've done. So BSc or BTech or BA, whatever. Rest all details are the same. Post graduation provisional slash. So I had after graduation I did a PG diploma. So I just cut the professional and I wrote a diploma and then I filled all the details, the rest of the details. It's important to know that outstanding achievement in this table is only when it comes to academics, right? Or if you've been the student of the year or best student of the college or the best debater or something like that, academics related. So I think uh, that's all for page one. Yeah. Now the page two. So on the top left starts with the age, years, and months. So whatever age in years and months, right? Write those units. Say 23 years, comma 8 months. Write that. Height. Say if 170 centimeters tall, so 1.7 m for meters. weight in kilograms, so say 70 kg, right? That's a unit. Present occupation and personal monthly income. So whoever is working in any company or something like that, write your designation, your company, and then comma income. So I was a student. I've never worked, so I used to write studying or I used to write student. Right? And then NCC training. So the details of the NCC training, we have to, before that we just have to take yes or no if undergone NCC training. So total training, it's basically, it depends now. They'll ask you to write in years, 3 years, or months, 36 months, whatever they ask you to write in. Wing, which are respective wing, division, obviously senior division or senior wing, certificate obtained. So if you've obtained C certificate, you do not need to mention B comma C. If you've done A certificate as well, then you can mention all three, A comma B comma C. If it's only B and C, then just write C. I mean, that's fine. Participation in games and acha, okay, here in C certificate you can also mention, it's okay to mention the grade which you got. So I used to write C dash A grade. Now the important thing, participation in games and sports. So the approach which I used is, I used to not write the sports year which I have played in school time, right before 10th grade, or 6 to 10 years before all the games that I've played, because I used to play a lot of games in school. Almost all the team games I've played in school, inter house and inter school as well, at through few championships. So here I used to write here, and the next column, the next table, which is for extracurricular activities, if any. Both of these, for both of these, I used to write my activities and games and sports which I did in the last 5 years. Especially in the sports section, games and sports, I wrote only football, because even after school, even after 12th grade, the only sport which I played was football. So I used to write things which come within 5 years from now, from past 5 years. So I had played football, and they've also asked you the period or duration of participation. So I played football from 2013 to 2016. So for 4 years I played football. So I had mentioned that period or duration of participation. So here, instead of the year, you can also mention for how many years you've played. Say 2 years or 4 years. I used to write 4 years. So represented, the next is represented school, college, university, other. So other here means state or national or international, right? So anything which is below school, it is up to y'all actually. If you all have played, say in colony, in your society, just for the fun sake, or in your respective villages, if you all have played, you can mention that also, it's fine. But I mentioned only football because I have played it recently. I've been kept playing it in my recent times with my friends as well. I also have a basic knowledge about football, and also because I have represented my school and my college in football. So yeah, outstanding achievement. I had no outstanding achievement, so I just put a dash. Here it is important to know that many of us might have played a lot and lot of sports, but I believe my approach was ki I should mention only those in which I really have something outstanding achievement, or those games and sports about which I have some knowledge. If you've written that you played Kho in your 8th grade, probably you're not aware of all the rules and regulation, how it is played, which team is the best, or in our country, or whatever, these things, basic things. So I try to avoid avoid writing such sports and games. Football, I was aware of all the basics, so I wrote football. One very important thing to note here is, whatever y'all write on the PIQ form, y'all, it is required that y'all are aware of what you've written. So like I said, like I just gave an example, football, you should be aware if you're writing football, if you played at certain level. Kho, which you played in 8th grade, say 7 to 8 years ago, so there's no point, and you've never played after that, so there's no point of writing this, right, which you played so long ago, of which you have no knowledge now. So I used to keep my PIQ form very recent, the things I've done recently, in which I believe I have achieved some level, played at some level, in which I believe I've invested a lot of my time and efforts, right? So I think that's it for games and sports. Hobbies and interests this is very interesting. So it is very important as well, because so what is a hobby? Hobby is something which you do when you get bored. Whatever you do sitting at home, which you can do anytime when bored or whenever you want to pursue whatever it is. So my hobby is hiking. So there's the place where I live. There are a lot of hills here. So whenever I get bored, I used to even in the mornings I go walk on the hills. Even in the evenings when I get bored, I walk on the hills. So that is my hobby. I really like to do that, hiking. So that was my hobby. Hobby is something which you execute on a regular basis, on a daily basis, probably. There is definitely something which each one of us likes to do in our free time, in our for pleasure or fun or whatever it is. For many, it is dancing or painting, sketching, or there are so many things, right? Now, there's also one more thing here, the interests. So what are interests? Interests basically things you'd really like to do, but you cannot really execute them on a regular basis or daily basis, like trekking or like adventurous sports and activities. That was my interest. So I would really like to do these things, but I did not execute them on a daily basis. So put a comma and then I wrote adventure games and sports. It is, I think there is nobody who would not have any hobby or interest, right? Because common man, common people usually have something they like to do in their free time, right? It could be anything. It could be watching movies. It could be collecting stamps, collecting coins. It could be binge watching on Netflix or YouTube, or watching documentaries, doing NGO work, so many things. Write only that hobby and interest which you really execute on a daily basis, or interest which you execute, which you have already executed, or which you plan to execute, because there will be a lot of cross questioning about these things. And I think certain common people would generally have 3 to 4 max hobbies or interests. More than that, then it is practically not possible. Probably some people might have more than that, but usually used to write just 3 to 4 things here. Now, in participation in extracurricular activities and all. So starting from the ends, so how did I approach this? Here, I used to write my most recent participation and achievements, and then I used to go into the descending order. So whatever I've done in 2021, then 2020, 2019, then 2018. In that sequence, I used to write most recent to the ones which I had done previously. So what all things come under this? Adventurous activities and games and sports, adventurous. All here come those sports which you've not mentioned already in the table above, right? So here I used to write long distance cycling, rock climbing. Then for NCC cadets, here is a place where you can write about camps if you've done any, say NCC Republic Day camp or youth exchange program, Thal Sainik, Vayu Sainik, whichever camp it is, you can write it here. Or other things which, any extracurricular activities like essay writing, or blood donation or NGO work, tree plantations, whatever it is. The extracurricular is basically other than your academics and sports, whatever activities which you've done, that comes under extracurricular activities. Here again, outstanding achievement, if any, so you can write whatever achievements you'll have. Be honest here, be genuine, because all these things will be cross-checked in the interview. uh, all these things are also seen in your psychology test when you write a certain things. So based on the PIQ form, the assessors get a general idea of who this person is, what has this person been doing for the past few years, how has he or she built her personality. They get an idea of all these things. especially the psychologists, and then they assess your tests and then they compare कि tests में जो personality निकल रही है और PIQ में जो लगता है, is it matching and all. So it is very important to be honest. Next comes the position of responsibility is held in NCC scouting, sports team, extracurricular, etc. So any ranks which you've held in the scout guide or in the NCC, say cadet sergeant or SEO, CSEO, whatever, you can write that. Or in sports, if you've been the captain of some team, if you've held any responsibility during your college, like university representative or NSS leader, or in school as a games captain or vice captain or prefect, some prefect. So all these things can be written here. Or if you've been a leader of some expedition or some trekking or some adventurous activity, even that you can write here. Nature of commission, basically short service commission or permanent commission. Choice of service, whichever SSB you all have gone to, say Army, Navy, Air Force, whatever, you can write that. Now the number of chances availed. So usually here they give instructions that while writing this number here of number of chances availed for commission in all three services, here this digit should include all the attempts you've gone to at SSB. Even if you've been screened out or conference out, all the numbers come here. But in the table below, you're supposed to write only those details where you've got conferenced out or recommended. Either of the two. So these things will be covered in detail. In the end, I believe in one of my videos, I had mentioned that it is very important that we be self-aware, right? I had mentioned that if we write a simple autobiography of our, say, past 10 years, so we get a basic idea. Okay, so I have been doing these things. I've been included in so many things, annual dance performances, drama performances in schooling, singing, karate, taekwondo, skating, whatever it is. After that, I took part in games, sports, inter-house, inter-school, inter-college, whatever it is. All the extracurriculars, NGO work or NCC camps, all the things which you've been doing. So if you write down an autobiography, you recall all these things, all the details, achievements, if any. So it becomes very easy to fill the PIQ form. It is very important to be honest when you fill the PIQ form. And yeah, handwriting should be good, because unless the assessor is able to read what you've written, they're not going to be able to judge your personality or your details. And this is the PIQ form is your first impression towards the psychologist, even the interviewing officer. It's the first impression. So it should be presentable, is what I believe. It definitely should be presentable, readable. At times, what happens is a few of us may have so many achievements in games and sports which you've played, so many extracurricular activities which you've done. So when we don't get space to write all this, at the end of a PIQ form, even at the dead end bottom, there's white colored space, empty space. So probably some people tell you ki you can write details there, put more things, whatever it is, or even on the top of the PIQ form where there's a blank space, you can write details there. I would suggest, in my perspective, to avoid that. Do not go beyond the tables set there, unless where you have to, right? I'll tell you where I had to create a table, right? Unless that's the case, I would suggest not to write anything outside the box which has already been given. And in the extracurricular thing, 5 things can easily be written. Even in the games and sports thing, at least 6 to 7 things can easily be written. So writing more than that, it's a personal choice. Actually, I did not write that because then it becomes a lot of khichdi, lot of mixture of lot of things. So, like I mentioned, I wrote only those things in which I believed I really have achieved something. I have played at some level, and which are recent, not very old. Like beyond 5 years, I did not write anything. So I wrote only those things which I've done in the past 5 years. That is one thing. Now, right, like I said, I had to create a table. Now, this was in the last table, which is details of previous interviews and SSBs event. So I've given 13 attempts. 13. I've been to 13 conferences so far. So in my 13th attempt, I had to write 12 of all those details, 12 of all the SSB details. So in that case, I just had to create a table down and mention the few details. In this case, what can be done is what I used to do is I used to carry a filled PIQ form with me at the respective SSB center. So whenever we were asked to fill the PIQ form, I just used to take out mine and then just write all the details, copy all the details from this paper to that paper. And it's not illegal, it is totally allowed, it's totally fine, there's nothing wrong in it, because it's very difficult to remember all these SSB details and all these things. So I would suggest that one carries a PIQ form, a filled PIQ form of respective details. So one is very clear कि okay ये सारी चीजें भरनी है. By that time you've also practiced a lot of things, practice writing these things a lot of times. So then when you go there, sometimes you have to fill just one. Some boards would just take Xerox of that one. Sometimes you have to fill 3 PIQ forms. It does become hectic, especially for the repeaters, because they might have to fill a lot of details, especially the SSB details. And also it becomes hectic for the sports, games, and extracurricular activities, whoever has done all these things uh, in bulk. So I would suggest copy a filled PIQ form. It really helps, nothing wrong in it. And like I said, listen to the instructions given very carefully, because on the second page, bottom right, they can ask you to just put your signature or something like that. For repeaters, it is always better that you are aware of all the previous entries which you've been to, all the details regarding SSB number, place, batch number, chest number, date. That is how the approach should be, because one cannot go to the SSB and lie saying ki, no, I've only been to 2 attempts when you have been to 5 attempts. That does not work, because they eventually find out all these things. So if you have really been to as many SSBs, mention it and carry all the details. That shows that you have kept a record, a track of whatever you've been doing. If you don't even remember all these details, if you've been to just 2 to 3 SSBs and you forgot everything, that means a very casual approach, does not care about the previous attempts. Probably, I think that would be the interpretation. So when you carry these details, I think it would speak good that okay, this person has done some assessment of his or her previous SSBs, kept records, kept a track of the dates from since when they've been giving SSBs to now, and all these things. So I think that's it about PIQ. In the end, I would just say that it is very, very important document, right? As like I said, it is the first impression towards the psychologist and the interviewing officer. So they say there are a lot of candidates to be judged by the interviewing officer and the psychologist. Very important to keep the presentation very good, because if after a long day they see your handwriting and they get irritated, that won't really be good. That does not happen. I'm just saying that why take risks? It should always be presentable. This is basically your CV. It's your curriculum vitae. So, yeah, that's it about PIQ form. If you have any doubts, y'all can drop your doubts in the comment box. Thank you. Jai Hind.